Hi, you're listening to the My Body, My Story podcast.
But I actually think my greatest accomplishment was fixing me so that I could actually be that parent for them and be that role model.
This is the 45 over 45 chapter, where we celebrate rule breakers and role models, the women who inspire us to live life our way and to show their sensuality, beauty, soul, and true essence. I'm your host, Alina, and I'm interviewing 45 women over the age of 45 while they're sitting in my makeup chair and getting their makeover for the project's photo shoot. Here we talk about what it's like to be 45 plus, adjusting to the changes that come with time, and we'll listen to the stories of our participants. If you have an interesting story to share, we'd love for you to participate. You can email us on info@alexandrawalker.com, and that's Alexandra spelled with a KS, or visit our website, alexandrawalker.com. Alexis, tell us about yourself.
Oh, okay. So normally I go to talk about me, but I need to talk about more of me. So I was born Tiffany. I hated the name most of my life, and spent the better part of my 20s killing Tiffany and being Alex. And I spent my 30s being Alex, and then when I went into my 40s, I sort of started growing into Alexis.
How did you come up with the name?
No, it's my middle name.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just reversed the order and
Right.
started using my middle name. I think too in my 30s there was some strength in being Alex, like having that male name.
Yep.
It often put people on the wrong foot, in interviews and stuff, because they'd be expecting a man and a woman to turn up and they'd be like disconcerted. I just kind of like the strength. But so I've been married 3 times. The third one stuck. I've been with
The other ones were practice runs?
They're practice runs, yeah. One was a bit of a disaster, but we don't talk about that really. My husband and I now have been together for nearly 25 years. It'll be 25 years in May.
You're too young to have been, you've been married for 25 years, and the other ones, where did you manage the other ones?
Oh, I live life pretty flat out. He's just wonderful. So we met as I turned 30, and so I'm 54 now. So sorry, it'll be 24 years in May, not 25. I think that's right. Anyway, I have to think about the dates. I'm not very good with dates, but I have 3 children. They're adults. They're all fabulous. I'm just so proud of them. They've all got really good work ethics. They're really considerate. 2 out of the 3 are very, very kind. Yeah. My son's still got a bit of a way to go. But I love them, and they really like me as an adult, and I think that's so good, because I was so not a good mother raising them. I've got no maternal instincts whatsoever. Kids get what they need from me, not necessarily what they want. I was never that woman that went, oh, babies. I was just like, oh my God, babies, where can I hide? Even coming up here, I got on the plane and they seated me next to a couple with a baby that was about 6 months old, clearly teething and crying, had snot everywhere. I was like, oh no. I'm like, oh, never mind.
I love it. Something that I would do. I would just roll my eyes.
I'm like, oh God, no flying business class. But anyway, so, and my eldest daughter, she's on her own now, but she did have a partner, and they had 2 beautiful children. So I have a granddaughter who's 9.5, and my grandson who, I'm going to get in trouble now. I think he just turned 6. See, I told you I'm not maternal. But they rock. They are awesome. My granddaughter is just kindness incarnate. She's got bossy street. She's got a bit of, her grandma's backbone. But she always wins awards at school for being kind and compassionate and, for helping others out. Yeah. So I'm always really proud that's her thing. my grandson, he's on the autism spectrum, and mate, he's like the coolest dude. He just laughs at everything, loves life. You'll be sitting watching a movie and he's worked out how to make what's on his phone go on the TV. And so you'll be, watching a movie and all of a sudden Itchy and Scratchy are beating the crap out of it. You go, Grandma, look, Grandma, look.
Look what I did.
Look what I did. But he loves dress-ups as well. And he just, he'll just come and he'll find a shirt of yours that he likes and cut it up so he can make his costume out of it. So we have to keep our good stuff out of the way. But he wraps stuff up in sticky tape, and he loves dressing up and being Captain Hook. It was really hard when he started primary school to understand that he couldn't go to school as a character. That was a bit tough for him. But so we now have the most amazing collection of costumes for adults and children. And one year we were living in this duplex up in Sydney, the girls and I. My husband's always stayed in the house in Melbourne. And so my grandson's birthday's in January and we didn't have any air conditioning. And I got my son a Buzz Lightyear costume to dress up in. Well, my grandson's downstairs and he sees Buzz Lightyear coming down. He was only like 3 or 4 at the time, so he didn't have that understanding of like not real, and he lost his mind. He was just like so happy. So he brings us like just lots of joy. He just has this wonderful way of seeing the world. But yeah, other than that, I'm a senior project manager. I actually am a project portfolio manager for a local council in Darebin, and I'm a governance professional. I'm a fellow of the Governance Institute of Australia, which is something that's usually reserved for lawyers and stuff, so I'm a bit proud of that. Oh,
Yeah, well done. It's all the Alex part, right?
Alex got me there.
Alex got you there.
Yeah.
The rest is up to you.
Yeah.
And you made it.
Yeah, it's like becoming Alexis was like, that was the icing on the cake. Yeah.
Very interesting. What are you most passionate about?
Oh, God. I'm like passionate about everything. So I'm hyperactive. I have adult ADD. They did try to give me drugs for it once. That so didn't work. But I tried.
It's your personality. It's nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, I'm flat out or I'm asleep. Like there's just no middle ground. Like this is how I wake up in the morning. I'm just like, I annoy people. My husband fortunately gets up earlier than me. I think that's the success of our marriage. So he gets up before me because I'm just like, hi, morning, blah, 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 blah. But I suppose like socially, I love all things like politics. So I follow UK politics, US politics, love Australian politics, always on Twitter. I love putting out information about family violence and domestic violence to help, empower women to leave violent relationships.
That's right.
If necessary, I'll share my own story. I have an acquired brain injury from an assault I experienced in a violent relationship. I'm quite lucky because it hasn't really impacted me in terms of my thought processes, but I'm very easily distracted, and that gets harder and harder to control.
Of the injury.
Yeah. And I've got poor impulse control. So, I'm the sort of person who will go, it's 11 o'clock at night. Who cares? Let's open another bottle of wine. I'll wake up for work in the morning. And then you're like,
hey, I do that.
Thanks. But I think the thing that's been really important for me, and that was part of being Alex and then becoming Alexis, is that I'm seen to be a positive role model, a good role model for young women. Yeah. Because anybody can be a role model. Donald Trump's a role model, shocking one, but to be really conscious in like owning my behaviour, owning my actions, and saying, you can leave a bad relationship and you can put yourself through uni as a single mum in a housing commission. And
that's right.
My first husband wasn't violent. He was a lovely, lovely man. I just lived my life too fast for him. But this wasn't a husband. This was just a terrible relationship. Yeah. Just, because I've got children and their father's wonderful and their fathers, because my kids are a blended family. For me, like, I'm I just love everything. I love life. I think it's the greatest gift you get every single day.
That's right.
It's you wake up and it's like you've just got another day to do better and like to leave your mark in the world. And you don't have to be like Sir Hillary Clinton and climb Everest, you know.
Exactly.
But I think the greatest gift that you can do is be
present, right?
Is to be present,
yourself.
be yourself, and be the very best version. I sound like an American thing,
but it's
yeah.
true. Like help however you can. You know, you don't have to do everything for everyone. But what if you can help in some way, right?
Yeah.
Take that chance and do it.
Yeah, and I think if you role model good behaviours in other people, like I try to be a really excellent boss, you know, to my staff. Like I'm so proud of my kids. Like I really felt, even though like, you know, I was not the most responsible of parents when I was raising them, you know, like I got them to their sport every week. I got them to their training. I got them to their choir. You know, I managed to raise the money to send one of my daughters overseas singing. You know, like I feel like it was really important that I raised my kids to be able to fit into society and to function in society to be part of society.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. So that was like for me.
You sound like a great mum. I don't know why you think you know, I think spoiling is wrong. So what you did, you actually, you know, raised them and you did right by them. Just because you didn't spoil them potentially, you know, as much as some mothers do, it doesn't make you less of a, you know, or less motherly instincts or anything like that. I think it's...
Yeah, I suppose I don't conform to the normal. Yeah. I think that's probably a better way. Like I've got photos that are long hidden, you know, where I'm sitting like in dark glasses, you know, because I would have been out partying till 4 a.m, and but I've still got my kids to their sport, you know, and that's what they remember. You know, my son was running at Homebush just after it opened, and a state athletic carnival, and he reckons above 40,000 people he could hear me yelling out, "Go Trent, that's my boy, that's my baby," you know.
See?
But I was like,
how supportive was that?
I know. I became a rugby coach so that they could the team could play every Saturday, because their coach was a bit unreliable.
Yeah.
You know, I've been a team manager, and I've been a president of a rugby club and the juniors.
God.
Oh yeah. I love sport. I think sport helps immunise our kids from drugs to some extent. Yeah. I don't know. So I'm passionate about everything.
But it's good. It's good.
Thank you.
You have so many interests. You're constantly learning something. You're constantly being part of life. You know, you're not. It doesn't go past sort of. You're living it. I think it's great.
This is true. Once I can remember, you know, as a teenager in my 20s, I was quite wild and out there. I was very much on the party scene, and my mum would be like, "Oh, God, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that." You know, there was a little bit of vicarious living. But I just said to her, I go, "One day you're going to be old, sitting on your rocking chair and wondering, like, of all the things you missed." I said, "I'm going to be sitting on my rocking chair smiling and thinking, God, I still hope my children never find out about that particular night." You know, do you know what I mean? Like, there's not, I don't really have any regrets, even things that were where I did have to suffer consequences. You know, even like I still don't regret them. Like they all blur into who I am.
They're yours, you know. You stand by what you did.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that's great.
Thank you.
Everyone knows that with age we change, but what positive changes have you experienced with age?
Oh God, I love getting older. Every decade has been just better and better. I think you get more comfortable with your body. You'll demand that people that you're in an intimate partner relationship with treat you properly. You tell them which bit of you makes you feel really good, and that things like that wet tongue in the ear just don't do it for you. You know?
You know yourself.
Yeah. You do. You I think if you're reflective and if you're fortunate, you learn from your mistakes and you do better next time. And you know, I've always learnt to pick myself up and keep putting one foot in front of the other foot. So I just went from like a really disastrous 20s and, you know, a couple of really awful events and a couple of my teen years to, you know, I have this period in my 20s that I call the lost years. I can't explain how they happened, but they did. And then, you know, I was this, you know, single mum living in government housing, and I got myself to uni and I put myself through uni, and I met my husband now, and we, you know, I'd take time off because we had a baby fairly quickly. And, you know, I just kept working harder and studying, and I think, like, I've always had a hard work ethic, but I learned how to make, I stopped apologising for me, for who I am, you know. A lot of the time, like, women in my 20s and 30s would make me feel bad about myself, and, you know, I'm not demure, I'm not reserved, I'm not, and I'm certainly not cautious. You know, and
that's you.
It's
you
yeah.
know, why should you be someone else?
Exactly.
You're not trying to change them.
Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, and so I think for me, aging has been this wonderful process of becoming me and being confident enough to be me and to not apologise for taking up space, you know,
right.
Especially from men. But anyway, that's
right.
a topic for another day. I think the best thing is my friends.
Yeah.
I've got 5 really close girlfriends, like people that I could call in the middle of the night if I was in trouble, and I don't think many people have that.
That's right.
I've got 2 friends that I've known since they were born. So I have another friend other than Lisa, because Lisa and I have known each other since we were babes together.
Yeah.
And we went to primary school together and we went to high school together. And then I have godparents, and their youngest daughter and I, we've been friends again since she was born. We're still friends now.
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to get up to the Gold Coast once a year to see her, but unfortunately COVID hasn't been great.
Yeah, with COVID, it's everyone's lives on hold.
Yeah, and I find that about every 20 years there's like this massive sort of shift in how I think and behave. So like around 28, and then again, well, it's every 10 years really, then sort of in my early 40s, like my whole world shifted and repositioned. And then now, like, I feel like the decisions that I'm making and the change, I'm like fundamentally quite different to who I was a year ago. And I don't actually think it's down to COVID. I don't know if COVID it's triggered my PTSD, but I don't know whether it's had a negative or positive impact for me as yet, but it has had an impact. But I genuinely feel that, like, I'm calmer now. I'm taking more time to make decisions. And I feel like this year is me setting up my year to set up the next 20 years of my life. Yeah. But also mourning the loss of opportunities that just because, not that I regret not having done them, but I'm just now too old to do them. And people go, oh, you're never too old. But in fact, you are.
Yeah,
you know,
certain
and
things.
You are, and some things you need to reprioritise as well, because you've got such a short time left. So what you do needs to be meaningful.
Yeah.
So I like getting older. The best thing about getting older is I don't get hit on or propositioned as much, you know.
Yeah.
I kind of like getting differently attractive as I get older, you know.
Yeah.
It's
like a different type of respect. You're not seen just like as a beautiful woman, but there's other part of it as well. Like,
you're just not. You don't get as objectified, and you don't just have random people hitting you up and in the street. And like sometimes I couldn't even go to work, and you'd have some idiot on the train like, oh, you want to, you know, can I have your phone number? And look, in some ways, like that person was very brave to approach you. Yeah. But they're not approaching you; they're approaching that image that you have, and I think that it took me a long time to learn the difference between sexy dressing and sensual dressing. Yeah. So dressing in a way that embraces your womanhood, but doesn't necessarily go, hey boys, here I am, come and, do you know what I mean? And I think the other thing with age is like, now if I'm out with girlfriends, I'm just like, oh, thanks, you know, nice to meet you and stuff, but I'm just out with the girls tonight. Like, I'm just, you know, not interested. Like, I don't even say I'm married because it's, do you know what I mean? It's like,
you shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have
not
to.
Interested, that's it.
Yeah, and I think as you get older, you can say that. You do grow into your strength. I think society strips it away from us so much in our primary years and our, you know, particularly with our stories telling and stuff, that I think most women don't really grow into who they are until they don't grow into their power until much later.
Yeah.
And then we don't have enough time to change the world.
Life is short, isn't it?
It is.
The older you get, the more you kind of realise that and think, oh, I wish I had the balls to do things more so when I was younger.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge you're experiencing at this age?
Aging gracefully. There's a whole lot of, because when you get to this age, there is a degree of, oh, who gives a fuck, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So you can be a little bit cavalier. So, and you do notice, my skin has aged so well. I for that I'm eternally grateful. I married a very nice man. Marry someone who's kind.
And you'll stay young forever.
And you'll stay young forever. So I think there's a little bit of a challenge in that. But I think as society, we dismiss older people. We dismiss old people completely. And, you know, just our response to, you know, all the older people with when COVID was here and, you know, people going, I'm not wearing a mask, it's my right. I'm like, well, actually, this is Australia. We don't have a Bill of Rights. That's America. You know, get your facts straight.
Yeah.
You know, but I think for a lot of older women, you know, there's a redundancy about us and we're not valued for what we can contribute.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, for me, the next challenge for the next sort of maybe 12 years of my working life is to make sure, you know, that I'm actually respected and valued for my contribution. My son had once said something, you know, people like you, your age, you know, that don't know how to use computers. This was about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I actually pushed him off his chair and I said, I wrote in DOS. I said, we didn't even have Windows when I first started using computers. Right. And he was really surprised. So I think being able to be allowed to age, I think that's the biggest challenge.
And also be respected for the knowledge that you have.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of ways, you have a lot more knowledge than younger people. Just because they know maybe computers better or programming, but again, not necessarily.
Yeah. You know, and we all have different experiences, and I think we need to share our stories. Not like bleed and vomit all over each other with our pain, but and that's okay to do in certain circumstances. But I think, you know, we can. I learn all the time from my younger children, and sometimes it might be about the Kardashians, but other times
you have to know what's going on in the world, right?
You know, but other times, like it's really interesting to see how they engage with the world. You know, my youngest has never lived in a world without mobile phones. You know, my eldest two, they were sort of 12 and 13 when they got their mobile phones. But, you know, so they have some understanding, and it's just, it fascinates me, you know, how they see the world, how they engage with the world, you know, how much they value food and eating together, you know, which I think as society sort of homogenises, we risked losing. I think back in the 80s and 90s we did for a while, whereas now it's sort of back. And some things that I look at from a surface level, from my age, I think, well, it's a little bit pretentious. And then I think, Jesus, you were a child of the 80s and you're saying that's pretentious, you know, like there's actually, you know, I see my youngest daughter and her boyfriend, they're always in the kitchen cooking, and get these random text messages like, oh, Mum, how do you cook this? Or she'll message her dad and say, how do I cook this? Or, I'm at the Vietnamese shop, which one do I buy? And then my poor husband's like trying to read the labels as she like whizzes the camera past, Yeah. Okay. So I think, being held relevant.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. And being an excellent grandma.
That's right. Best grandma of the year, of the decade. How old are they?
One's nearly 10 and one's 6
decade.
or 7. Oops.
So describe your greatest accomplishment.
So like part of it is, to say, like, I've got these 3 great kids. They function really well. They've got really good, 2 have got fabulous jobs, and another one's, working away through uni and just doing amazing things there. But I actually think my greatest accomplishment was fixing me so that I could actually be that parent for them and be that role model. Yeah. So I think it sounds a bit vainglorious, but I think my greatest accomplishment was making me the person that I am, so that my children have something to aspire to, and my grandchildren. So I think that's so right on so many levels. Like, how can you add value to someone else's life unless you are completely happy with you? You know yourself, you accept yourself, right? How else can you teach someone else to do the same? Oh God, I'm going to cry. I hope your makeup's waterproof. I don't normally cry, so this is the equivalent of me crying bucket loads. It's about I don't cry. Sometimes I want to. Sometimes you have that pain and you just want to cry, and I can't. So good. I saw this thing, was some American thing, and they had this room. You go for some weekend away to do personal work, and had these crying mats, and you had to just lie down and cry. And I was like, oh my God, even when I want to cry, I can't get the tears to come, Yeah. And I was like, oh. You just come for photos and you cry. Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, my eyes are moist. We don't thank ourselves enough as women. We don't value what we do. Even when you think you're very empowered and that you do value what you do, we don't. We are undermined from day one. Like, society sends so many mixed messages. Yeah. Men are still on top. Men are still, matter more. Yeah. What advice would you give your 30-year-old self? That one question really challenged me. And there's a Japanese saying that I came across many years ago. I was in my mid-20s. And it was something that helped me so long. And I think it's been repeated by a lot of self-styled gurus. And it was that... it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Yeah. And to be honest, I wouldn't tell 30-year-old me anything, because I wouldn't change anything that's happened since I was 30. Like, my life has just blossomed. I think it's such a trite and corny word, but it's just got better and better. I think if you would give yourself advice, then it's you might not follow the same path. Is that why you wouldn't? Yeah. It's almost that I it was a path I had to walk. Yeah. There were a couple of interesting turns. Yeah. But I'd be scared to say anything in case I'd change, and then my kids wouldn't be who they are, and my grandkids wouldn't be who they are. They may not even be here. Like, can you imagine? Yeah. You did have to say anything, it would be very, cryptic, and just to say the journey is everything. What advice would you give younger women who will eventually undergo these changes? Oh, mate, be true to yourself. Like, do you. I hear all the young ones saying it. Do you, be you, but I wish somebody had given me permission so long ago to just be me, to say... that it's okay, to just do you. And the thing is, if you are true to yourself, and I mean true, not doing what's better for you over another person. We all have responsibilities and duties. I had a couple of opportunities to fly off to Europe with people, but I had a responsibility to my children. But I think acknowledging that responsibility and the truth of that responsibility and saying, no, this is who I am, and you know, I want to be me. And I think my girls and I, we love Audrey Hepburn. We just think she's fabulous. But I also like Catherine Hepburn, who was, you know, a different generation again. But they were women who were very self-possessed and really sort of had that image. And it's like,
it would have been harder that in that century.
Yeah, well, particularly, Catherine Hepburn, because she wore pants, it was unbelievable, you know. Yeah. But for me, you know, I was like, for a long time, they were who I wanted to be like. And then I realised one day, and I think this is the advice I would give to a young person, stop saying, I want to be like that person. If that's who you want to, if they are values that resonate with you, you have to get up every day and be that person until you become that person. Yeah. You can't just say, I want to be a person who this or who that, you know. Then you've got to be, right, I'm getting out of bed today. If I'm going to be that person, I don't mean become Audrey Hepburn, become the best of you, then you have to get out of bed, for starters, because that's an issue in itself. A lot of people don't like getting out of bed. And then you've got to say, well, okay, if I'm going to be that version of me, what would I actually wear today? Okay, would I actually partake in this activity after work? You know, and so you can't actually become the person you want to be until you start really committing and being that person every single day.
That's right.
So yes, be true to yourself. So do you, because you can't do anyone else. It's false, and people sense it.
What is your favourite quote about being a woman?
Look, this quote lived with me for so long. There's even a book that's got it as its title, and it's a collection of about 3,000 quotes of women. But I've given up buying it because every time I lend it to someone, I never get it back, because then they lend it to someone and blah, blah, it gets lost. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And I heard it during my lost years, and then U2, who I love. I used to always wish I could grow up and marry Bono, but of course he was already married. But it's probably the only white male I've ever been attracted to, except perhaps for Hugh Jackman in that movie scene where he pours water over himself. And sorry, I like it.
Australia?
I like a very specific
face down
type of Asian man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they then, U2 recorded a song that had, and a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And it just always resonated with me because for so much of my teenage years and my 20s, it was about finding someone. You know, you have to find someone, you have to find this life partner. Yeah. And then, it was actually, I've got all these really great girlfriends, and I've got, all these really nice people in my life. My life's actually quite balanced, and it really just helped me. I just went from one, relationship to the next, and I actually found it very difficult to be single, and so that kind of just reminded me that, I need to be
just yourself.
Yeah, and then once I am myself, then
the right man
will come or not. But it doesn't matter then,
Yeah.
So I think, that was, I think the thing that I love the most about my husband is he's just happy to walk alongside, He's just,
He's got a strong woman, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
He's there just to support you. That's what it's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
Support each other, to be yourselves.
Yeah, it's true. I let him rescue me every now and again. Because culturally, I often wonder, when I'm in Vietnam and I see the other wives and the dynamics in their marriages, and I'm like, good Lord, he just accepts so much,
Yeah.
And he
was born here, he's...
No, he
he's Vietnamese,
Yeah, and came out by the refugee camps and eventually came to Australia, and then I met him.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Alexis, for sharing your story with us. If you have an interesting story to share, we'd love for you to participate. You can email us on info@alexandrawalker.com, and that's Alexandra spelled with a KS, or visit our website, alexandrawalker.com.